This is poisonous, and yet every day millions of people eat it. But it's a plant that doesn't want to be eaten at all. It's called cassava, and these are the leaves. Over here we call this daun singkong, and I eat it pretty often. If you ask me why, it's kind of like eating fugu or pufferfish from Japan. If it's prepared properly, you won't die. Well, cassava is easier to prepare. Still, it could be deadly when done wrong. But the real difference between fugu and cassava is that cassava is a major staple food in many parts of the world. It's not just me eating cassava, there are millions and millions of people who eat it every day, and for some of them, every meal. There are tons of cassava dishes that have been incorporated into so many different cultures. The roots are also made into tapioca starch, which is used in many gluten-free recipes for cakes or bread. We've made one ourselves, a delicious cake called bika ambon. Tastes fantastic. Go check out our previous video on it. But anyways, for many, the poisonous nature of cassava hasn't stopped them from enjoying it. Still though, cassava needs to be processed properly first. In fact, consumption of improperly processed cassava is one of the main causes of a serious epidemic paralytic disease in rural populations in Africa. The main reason raw cassava is so dangerous is cyanide. Cassava leaves and the cassava roots contain something called cyanogenic glucosides. These chemicals are part of the plant's way of protecting itself, and these glucosides eventually turn into cyanide when the plant's tissues are disrupted. Such as if you tried to bite this leaf right now, don't do that. When we process cassava leaves and roots, our main goal is to get the cyanide out of it and make it safe for human consumption. Let me make it clear, cassava isn't the only plant with this kind of cyanide defense system. There are 2,000 species of plants that contain cyanogenic glucosides, including apple and wheat. But the cassava plant is generally deadlier than the other plants we consume, and the leaves of the cassava plant have more cyanogenic potential than the roots. It's notable, though, that the level of cyanogenic glucosides, aka the level of toxicity of the cassava plant, can vary depending on the location, cultivar, and soil conditions, especially depending on whether or not there's a drought, since droughts increase the cyanogenic content in the plant. And it doesn't quite end there, because aside from the cyanide, cassava also contains other anti-nutrient ingredients. Now you might be thinking, that sounds absolutely terrible. Why do so many people, myself included, eat this plant? Because cassava is a very tolerant plant, and not only is the cassava plant very productive, it is also one of the most drought-tolerant crops and can grow on marginal soil. For these reasons and more, it is used as a fallback resource in some places. In many parts of the world with little rainfall and poor soil, the hardy and easy-to-grow cassava plant can be a literal lifesaver. Not only is it easy to grow, it's also very nutritious. Both the roots and the leaves, with the leaves themselves containing ample amounts of crude protein, as well as numerous vitamins and certain minerals. The roots are a major source of carbohydrates and also contain other nutrients, including vitamin C and copper. So long as enough of the toxins are removed, the consumption of these nutrients is very beneficial. Right, so let's talk about how to process cassava leaves so we can finally eat these. So there are many ways of consuming the cassava leaves. Here, cassava is commonly served in many dishes, and the method of preparation is generally well known. Most recipes here get rid of the dangerous toxins in cassava leaves by boiling the leaves, pounding, slicing, or squeezing them to damage the cell walls inside the leaves, and then rinsing them. As it turns out, these recipes are on the right track. Multiple studies have proven that boiling and rinsing the cassava leaves is an effective way of removing the dangerous cyanide it contains. As for pounding the leaves, this destroys the cell walls of the cassava leaves, as I mentioned, and promotes the hydrolysis of linamarin. A study showed that pounding and then boiling the leaves for just 10 minutes was enough to remove basically all the cyanide they contained. However, it also noted that this method of processing got rid of a lot of the nutrients in the leaves as well. In just 10 minutes of boiling, the vitamin C content was reduced by 60%. When the boiling time is taken to 30 minutes, another study saw a loss of protein content by 58% and methionine by 71%. This is especially unfortunate because methionine is necessary for the body to detoxify cyanide. Aside from the nutrients mentioned, the boiling process also causes losses in other nutritional content. Where we live, while not always extremely abundant in water, droughts are relatively less severe than in some other parts of the world, so it could be likely that our cassava leaves contain less toxins than places where soil conditions and droughts are far worse. Of course, this doesn't mean that we can let our guard down about removing the toxins from the plant, since even at lower levels of toxins, it's still toxic enough to cause serious damage, and there are still quite a few reports about cassava poisoning here. It might also be a good idea to make sure you have enough protein too before eating cassava. The body needs certain sulfur-containing amino acids to detoxify cyanide. While it is true that cassava leaves actually contain a certain amount of one of these amino acids, it may not be enough, especially after processing. Among other sources of protein, animal protein contains sufficient amount of these amino acids, which is why it's probably a good idea to make sure you eat enough meat and/or fish when consuming cassava. There are also other plant-based alternatives that contain these amino acids, including Brazil nuts, tofu, oatmeal, and milk. If you remember that I mentioned improper consumption of cassava being one of the main causes of an epidemic paralytic disease in Africa, well, surprisingly enough, it was found that people of the same ethnic group living just 5 kilometers away from a place with high prevalence of the disease had almost zero prevalence of it. It just didn't happen there. Why? When looked into further, they found that these people either live near the sea, live near a lake, or next to a forest. All sources of fish and meat, which provides them with the animal protein they need to detoxify cyanide. Okay, so it's time for us to start processing these leaves. First of all, I'm just going to unwrap this bundle, and as you can see, there's no rubber bands here, just a small twig. Just unwrap that. It's done. It's very nice. I just put this here, and what we're going to do now is, because we can't eat these tough stems, I'm just going to pick out the leaves from them. So, like this. This is honestly just leisure work. Do this in your spare time while doing other things. Just in case anybody needs a second reminder, this is not the time to have a nail biting habit. Don't all of a sudden go, fight the urge. Okay, it's almost full. Don't be deceived though, it looks like a lot, but once it's cooked, it's going to shrink and look like a lot less, so making a bit more. Okay, so I plucked out all the leaves. I'm gonna wash this and I'll be right back. Alright, so after we've washed the leaves, we want to prepare a pot of water next. We also want to add about a half of a tablespoon of salt to it. Then I'll turn on the stove and bring the water to a boil. When it's boiling like this, we're going to put in our leaves. Make sure to be very careful with the hot water and also leave the lid open. We want those vapors to escape. And we want to boil these leaves for at least 10 minutes or until they become soft. So we're going to be stirring them around to double check. After they're nice and soft and well cooked, we want to strain out the leaves. Ah, looks nice, yeah? Okay, gonna get it out first. And gonna get out another batch. And by the way, we are going to be throwing away this water, this leftover water, because it cannot be used for anything. Please do not attempt to use it for anything. Okay. And then next we're going to be rinsing and squeezing these leaves a couple of times with cool water just to really make sure that we've got all of that toxic liquid out. So I'm going to start now. And if it's too hot, you can leave it be. But I mean, I'm using some cold water directly and just going over it. Oh, it's not that hard. Yeah, it's already cooled a little bit in the time that I went to get these. So we just squeeze it a little bit, just rinse it. And as you can see, the liquid below is still very, very yellowish. So that's a sign we should keep rinsing and squeezing this for a bit. So one more rinse and squeeze, and then these will become edible. And these leaves are actually ready to be consumed immediately, but they taste kind of bland without any flavoring, so we're gonna prepare some seasoning and then eat them with that. And look at that water. As you can see, it's not as dark as the previous one, which is probably a good sign. Okay, so I'm gonna throw this water out now, both of them. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to have a lovely dinner with daun singkong. Okay, it smells so good and it looks amazing. Okay, let's try out a bowl. Oh. And we made it with all fresh herbs too, so. Oh, it smells really good. It smells even better. This tastes really fantastic. It's good. Okay, I'm gonna try the cassava leaves. Not bitter at all. They've absorbed the curry. Tastes really good. This is fantastic. Wow, okay. It's mine now. This would be perfect with some rice. You know, now knowing all I know about the processing of the daun singkong or cassava leaves, I'm starting to revisit my memories. I think we ate this really bitter singkong leaf dish once. And I'm starting to think, it's kind of amazing that I'm still perfectly fine here after eating so many singkong dishes that I have no idea how they were processed. Yeah. This tastes amazing though. Absolutely no bitterness, which is just how it should be. Okay. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching and bye!